action-packed, intensive learning experience for you in the next couple of hours. And I'm grateful to Jim Aniol for being our northern wizard out of what we call our DST, affectionately. DST stands for District Strategy Team. And we have one in your district, our district, the Nicolay, and one in the Winnebago, and generally they meet together. And part of our mission in these months is to equip local churches with this demographic tool for your own planning, and it will also assist our district teams as we think about how to turn ministries around, how to start new ministries in our area, that kind of thing. And I'm sure that some lights will go on for you as you think about your ministry field and your mission field, whatever that is. So I'm happy to, I'm Gordon, the superintendent. I live in Appleton, in my 7th year of superintending. Also Amanda Rearauer is here from United Methodist Communications in Sun Prairie. She got up the earliest, I think, as early as John Wesley at 4, but 5:30, and is here to tape this so that other people may profit from what we're saying today. So we'll just welcome you. I recognize your face. Your name is?
Rick from Peace United Methodist.
Oh, sure, Rick, yes. Good, thanks. Thanks, Rick. Let us pray. Gracious God, it's a beautiful day. We're grateful to be here and ready to learn. Thank you for Jim's leadership, for our congregations, for the support that we gain from you and from one another. Help us to learn today and be more faithful missionaries and disciples for the sake of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Why I'm so excited about Mission Insight? Every Sunday morning I'm out in front of church here greeting people, and the ones that come, it's a warm greeting. We love each other, hugs and handshakes all around. But then there's people who drive by all the time, and even though we wave at them as they drive by, very few of them turn in. So on Sundays I'm sitting here, standing there, wondering how do we reach these people? How do we communicate with them? Even though we speak the same language, we don't speak the same language because of maybe age differences, economic differences, or just because we grew up in the wrong or different areas. And then I saw Mission Insight for the first time in August at a training session. Tom Bandy actually went to northern Wisconsin. He held a training for some church groups. And I saw the information. I couldn't believe the amount of information that was available. And then Pastor Mike, who's pastor here, I asked him, I said, how much do we have to pay for this? And he said, nothing. Our conference bought it for us. So it's like, well, let's dive in. And we dove in, we started doing some studies. And then Gordon gave me the opportunity to help other churches in our conference do that. And I couldn't see a better way to spend my time than to spread the knowledge and show you folks what's available. So the way we have this presentation formatted, the first half is to dive into the software to learn what it's all about, why we want to use it, and what's available. And then the second half, we'll take your questions, try to do some real-life examples. If we have any data here from your church, we'll use it, throw it up there, and show you how we can do some reports. We're lucky enough to have Seymour and Black Creek's data loaded up. I loaded it up yesterday, so we can probably take a look at that this morning. So let's dive in. There's 2 handouts if everybody picked those up on the way in. First handout has Mission Insight. You'll see this screen on the first page. Those would be copies of the slides, so you can take notes. And I'll also send you the PowerPoint so you can have it at home also, so you can show it to your church if you want to. Second handout goes over some definitions, what the reports mean, and some of the terms that we use in Mission Insight. And don't hesitate to ask questions during the presentation. It's free form. It's so you can get as much information as you can from today. And if you have any questions, my name and email address is on the last page. Don't hesitate to ask questions. All right, let's dive in. So what's Mission Insight? It's a tool that gives us insight into our mission field, what our congregations and neighbors think about, and how they feel about church and what they need from church. And the mission field, that's in the perimeter. It's the people we want to reach. And we design that mission field. It could be anything from a 15-minute drive to a 15-mile drive, or just a couple blocks away from church. We can design that through MissionInsite.
Who's we?
The church.
Or the local church?
The local church.
Okay.
The local church. And at a higher level, we can do it at the conference level, we can do it at the district level, we can do it at the statewide level, once all the churches are plotted. MissionInsite, it's a tool powered by Experian. And Experian is an international company that collects information on people and businesses to provide credit, marketing, and consumer information. That's the company that collects all the demographics from every purchase that's made, from surveys. They collect data from everywhere. They also use US Census information. They update it every 6 months. So this is current data. Oh, let's pop back real quick. What you see here, this is a guide written by Thomas Bandy. I'll show you how to get that document. It's about 300 pages, so you don't want to print it out. Just keep it on your desktop, your iPad, for easy reference. And I'll show you how easy it is when it's on your computer to navigate through that report. And why do we need this information? Well, Jesus told us, go therefore and make disciples. But how can we make disciples if we can't reach people? Much like me waving on Sunday morning, I can't get out in the middle. Well, I could get out in the middle of the street and direct them in, but I won't. We have to find a way to reach people. And MissionInsite and Thomas Bandy's guide helps us do that. And we all know that Wisconsin is a Christian state, right? There's churches everywhere. Every couple blocks in Green Bay, there's a big church. So we would assume that there's a lot of Christians here, and that our churches should be well packed on Sunday. But that's not true. I was at a leadership conference in Boscobel in April when I received an email from the Barna Group. Barna Group does a lot of research on Christian demographics and how cities work. And I was shocked to find out that Green Bay and Appleton is ranked 32nd out of 97 cities as being post-Christian. Post-Christian means people don't believe in God, they're atheist or agnostic, disagree that faith is important in their lives, and 15 other criteria. And if you hit 9 out of 15, you're identified as post-Christian. If you get 12 out of 15, that's highly post-Christian. So Appleton and Green Bay, we are way up there on the scale. So we have a lot of work to do in this area. This is a mission field that's ripe for us. And there's people out there that need the message. And we have to get it to them.
Just so I understand the
Yep.
direction of that,
Albany, Schenectady,
is
that's
the worst
the worst.
in this sense.
In this sense, in this
Okay.
study. And if you look at it, it makes sense. East and West Coast are up at the top. You would expect that. Larger cities you would expect. Chicago at 27. But Green Bay and Appleton is above Madison and above Milwaukee. So we're smaller than those two cities, but people aren't coming to church. So that's another reason why we want to work in MissionInsite. Figure out how we can reach these people. And based on the analysis of the American public done by Experian, MissionInsite, Bandy's guide, helps us determine what our neighbors are looking for in each of the following categories. And the second handout goes in detail into those categories. Leadership, it gives us 7 different styles that people are looking for. Hospitality, 4 different styles of greeting, food, parking, and shelter. Worship, 6 different styles of preaching, seating, and music presentation. Education, 6 different learning styles, presentation and leadership preferences. Small groups, 4 different organization and group focus alternatives. Outreach, 7 different ways to do mission service. Facility symbols and technology, 2 options in each of 3 sections. This would be how your church should look. Some people are turned off by crosses. Some people are turned off by church looks, whereas other demographics need that. You know, in one of our early meetings at the DST, Hispanic communities look for churchy looking buildings. That's what attracts them. Younger demographics want a coffee shop. Something maybe like Life Tree, where you just show videos. So we'll learn how to reach people in different age groups. And communication, 7 different alternatives for how we can communicate with our neighbors. Is it email? Is it text? Is it tweets? Or is it paper? Is it a phone call? Is it a face-to-face meeting? Each demographic group has different requirements. All right, so let's get started. Knowing your congregation. Now this isn't required, but it's helpful because when you do, there's one report out there called the Comparative Insight. You can compare your congregation's demographics to the demographics of your mission area, your mission group. And that makes sense because you kind of know your congregation, what they need, and you can draw parallels between what they need and how you work with them as to how you can work with your mission group. But there's some people who are worried about having this information out on the web. Really, all you're loading up is addresses, and that information is already available. Also available are their demographic information. It's all out there. But if you're still having trouble with your committees, that you can't sway them, what you can do is you can load up your information on MissionInsite, run the report, then delete that information. And the next time you need it again, you can upload it again. It takes seconds to upload. Within 15 minutes, the information is available. You can run the report, then delete it. So you can also do that. What's a mosaic lifestyle segment? Those are the demographics I'm talking about. It's an Experian classification based on purchasing behavior and survey answers. And Thomas Bandy's Mission Impact Guide version 2 takes the Experian data and translates it into how people can be satisfied by church. This different topics I mentioned on the previous slide. The congregation upload, required fields on the left, you don't even need names, you can leave that blank. The core data would be address 1, address 2 would be apartments, room numbers, or P.O. boxes, and then city, state, and zip. That's all that's required. If you have the extra other information, you can slice and dice your reports a little bit closer. You can even get down to the block level if you wanted to on MissionInsite. So very basic data. You can get this from your church membership software, Power Church, you can do a download, or if you even have a Word file, I can show you how to modify a Word file, convert it into Excel to get it uploaded. It's pretty easy to do.
Yep. I'm curious why birth date, since that seems to be something that's used, isn't on the left, but is that generated otherwise from the address?
Yep,
Okay.
because what happens is all the demographic and all the survey data is based on address.
Okay.
The people doing the surveys and collecting the data, they don't really know who lives at that address. They just know, in general, the people in that area, here's how they function. Here's what they're looking for. Pretty much you can think of the data on the right as being extra information to get more, to flesh out your database. And there's other things you can do when you do plotting your congregation. And that's how that information will work for you best. All right, congregation upload. When you have your data, in MissionInsite, you go to Tools, Congregants, and then Import Congregants. And the first thing you download is, when you hit Import, you'll get this screen. If you don't have your file template or formatted, you'll download the template, and pretty much all it is an Excel spreadsheet with column headers. Every column header has to be on there. Don't change it, don't delete it. And then if it's in Excel, if your data's in Excel, you just copy and paste into that spreadsheet. And then you put your church name. In our case, of course, it's Pere New Hope. Check off the first box, check off the second box. Put in the name that it's submitted by, you'll just type your name. Your email address, and I'll explain why that's important. And then you click the Browse button. And the Browse button will let you indicate where your file is located. If it's on your hard drive, if it's on a USB drive, the directories will come up. And then you hit Upload, and the process will start. Now the reason you put in your email address is when you do your upload, you'll get an email back from MissionInsite saying your upload was successful, you're ready to go. Or if it wasn't successful, they'll send you an Excel file with the addresses that have to be modified. Usually what happens is if there's too many spaces in the address, you'll have to modify it. But pretty much it goes very simply and easily. If you have an upload successful, you'll get a message at the bottom. Congregant file uploaded successfully. If you see the spinning wheel as you're uploading, you know you're in good shape. It's thinking it's going to work. If you don't see that spinning wheel, if it shuts down, you'll get an error here almost immediately, and you'll know you have to look at your file. Next thing to do, once your data is uploaded, you say plot. You're going to hit the plotting button, and it'll drop in where your congregants are located. All the red dots represent congregant addresses. So for New Hope, it makes sense because we're a new church start. So what we did is people from other United Methodist churches started coming to New Hope. And we also had a core group in our neighborhood. If you look at other churches, country churches, you'll see a closer plotting of people near the church.
When was this church formed, or what?
It was about 7 years ago.
7? Okay.
And there's one thing that we can't get around. In the Methodist Church, we have multiple charges. One pastor might have 2 churches or 3 churches. We can only plot a single church at a time. You'd have to plot that church, run the reports, and do your next church. Or you can call me up, and I can plot all the churches at once and do a combined report for you and ship off the PDF. MissionInsite just isn't set up to allow that information to be driven down to the church level. The next thing we do once we do our plotting is we'll build our shape. In this case, we just drew a perimeter around all our New Hope members. And there's many different shapes you can use.
That's the blue line.
That's the blue. The blue line, that's the perimeter of the shape we drew. Once you draw your shape, you can run your reports. There are predefined reports. Anywhere from 6 to 33 pages of data you'll get on your congregation and the mission field, or you can build a report. When we click build a report, we get custom fields we can pull from. And what I recommend is just click off demographic trends and mosaic. Demographic trends will show you the population where it was in 2010, as well as the expected growth to 2018. And also talk about racial makeup and households, that type of information. Mosaic, that's the demographic information, the different groups that are in your mission field. And that's what this looks like. This is the demographic trends. As I said, well, you go back to 2000. 2000, 2010, 2013, and 2018 expected growth. Their expected growth, where they get that is, they use census information, and they also go out to the big box stores, like Costco, Walmart, and Cabela's, and they ask them, are you considering moving into this city? And they'll tell them yes, and here's why. So it's very solid data. I also proofed the 2013 information independently on the web, and the numbers match up exactly. So it's solid data. And the congregant mosaic profile, Bandy came up with these cute little names, but behind each of these names is 7 pages of data telling us what these people are looking for. One thing you'll see a lot in Wisconsin, kind of cracked me up, was stock cars in state parks. What that means is people like NASCAR, they like working on their cars, and they like going camping. So if you live in the Pere Green Bay area, you know what happens on Friday. They load up the campers and they take off. So as you start looking at the mosaic profiles, you look at your neighbors and you'll say, wow, this is pretty accurate. Map tools and shapes. There's different shapes, different perimeters you can draw to capture your mission field. It can be a polygon. You can draw your own freehand. You can draw a radius, either a 1/4 mile or 5 miles from an address. You can do a travel polygon, either driving or walking distance from your church. Where this is helpful is in each area, there's a certain distance people will drive to go to work, entertainment, or church. In the Green Bay area, it's about 15 minutes they'll drive. And also what matters is what side of the bridge you live on. Some people won't go east, some people won't go west. So that's helpful when you're drawing your polygon. Or you can do zip code. Zip code, not very helpful because zip codes just go pretty much anywhere. They just decide they wanted to pull this block into the zip code and they did it. So not helpful, but it's easy, it's fast. And shapes change the area that your data will be gathered from. Once you plot your shape, you draw your blue perimeter, and that's what's captured for your mission field.
Here, I have a
Yep.
question, and this is probably not possible, but would there ever be a way to get the data from all the Methodist churches, in the area to see, okay, all these addresses of people who we know are already plugged in, maybe not at our church, but they're plugged in at this Methodist church, this Methodist church, this Methodist church, so they're being taken care of and they're receiving the gospel message so that we can see.
At the conference level, we can do that.
Okay. Sorry.
What you would be able, no, that's a good question. What you could do is you could key in the address when you do your, you could do a travel polygon, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Type in an address for a church that you know, say 15 minutes or whatever travel distance you want to do, and it'll capture the information for the people in that area. You won't know where the congregants live for that church, but you'll get a good idea of that mission field.
So can that be used in our, like we have the Seymour and the Cicero. So Seymour, we put in all our data, but then we capture Cicero's address out there, because then we'd actually then capture all of that information around their church.
Right. What you will do, you would do 2 separate reports. You would do a Seymour and a Cicero report, and then you could combine them. Or what I could do is, since I'm at the conference level, I can do a combined report for you. I would plot both churches, and I would draw, say, travel polygons around both churches, run a combined report. So
Versus doing it by using just that second address.
Right.
Okay. I mean, I know that, but for a quick version of seeing what's out there.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if our circuit wants to look at it as a whole, is that possible?
That's possible also.
Okay.
You would contact one of the district strategy team members, contact either me or Cheryl Weaver. Ron Vinger is on the district strategy team, and we can run those reports for you. And that's one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to, once we get all the data in for the Green Bay churches, is plot that information and see where we have members converging. So we could offer maybe small groups in those areas and do a targeted mailing. And we also see gaps where, as Laura mentioned, people aren't receiving the gospel. You know, we're missing maybe a neighborhood or a couple blocks, and we can do maybe door to door, whatever it takes to get the message out to those people.
That's very helpful.
Yeah. Or if there's a coffee shop in the area, set up a Bible study in the coffee shop. Whatever we have to do. All right, so the different types of shapes. Polygon freeform, what you would do is you would set a point, go to the next point, and go to your next point. And as you do that, as you click on the map, it starts drawing your perimeter. Draw radius, if you select the radius option, and 5 miles, you would type in the church address, hit radius, and MissionInsite will draw the perimeter for you. travel Polygon. This was a 15-minute drive time from New Hope. Once again, key in the address. Hit 15-minute drive time. It draws a perimeter for you. And zip code, as I said, as you can see, while it's helpful, it's not too helpful. Because what's important for New Hope is there is no Methodist church on the west side in West Pere between Oneida and Kokana. It's a huge untapped area. And there aren't a lot of other churches in there either. So what we would do is we would go from bridge to bridge and capture that neighborhood or those neighborhoods. Because we know you can go bridge to bridge in about half an hour. And since it's the only way to cross the river, that's what you would do. Okay, any questions about the different shapes? Okay. And initially for New Hope, we did go by the zip code. Since it captured most of the New Hope members and it didn't impact any other United Methodist churches, and it included the underserved West Pere area. Now, what I asked when I attended one of the webinars from MissionInsite is, can we get information on other denominations so we can easily know where other churches are? And of course the answer is no, because no denomination wants to share that information. So what you would do is you would go out to Google Maps or Yahoo Maps and then just click churches in the area. And what it will do is it'll give you a map and it'll plot the churches. And it'll give you the distance from a certain address. So we built that spreadsheet also for New Hope. Because while we don't want to steal from other churches, we do want to know if there's an underserved area.
And I've done that before, it's very accurate. Just
Yeah,
these little dots show up, you're like, oh.
Yeah, and then you do a screen print, drop it in your spreadsheet, and you have the information.
What with the zip code? Can you put in multiple, like 3 zip codes?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Without having to do them each time, but can you do like 54115, 54113, 54303? I think that's a Green Bay one too. And you'll get all of them?
What you would do is, you would do a zip code shape, save that shape, so you would pull up your multiple saved shapes and then draw a perimeter around those multiple saved shapes. Now, that's the only way to get multiples at the church level. At the conference level and higher, we can do multiple plottings and multiple shapes. All right, so we've laid out our mission area, we've put our congregants out there. What do we get from this? What we get is, we get a listing of all the different demographic groups. We get the 2013 number of people that are in that group. And we also get a percentage. This would be the percentage of the total. We get that for the study area, our mission field, and we also get it for our congregation. Now, we don't want to look at every group because behind every group is 7 pages of data, which means hours and hours of analysis, which means more hours of planning. MissionInsite suggests look at the top 50%. And if your top 50% is only a couple groups, maybe also look at any group that represents at least 5% of the total. And do your study, do your planning based on those groups. Also, it's a good gauge to see how your congregation stacks up to the neighborhood. You know, and in this case, the top group is Babies in Bliss for our area, which makes sense. This is a growing area, a lot of young families with Pere and Ledgeview. In the total area, Babies in Bliss represents 12.4%. At New Hope, it's 25.8%. So we know we're doing a good job of capturing that group, that demographic group. And since we understand that area, we understand the demographic, we know how to do outreach. to young families. As you can tell by looking at this room, by the little kid things up here, this is our Sunday school room for kindergarten up through 3rd grade. Okay. So you get a ton of information, and what I found useful is to summarize the key points of each mosaic type that's in the Bandy Guide. This is the Thomas Bandy Guide. It gives you details of what each demographic group is looking for. So if you look at your second handout, go to page 2. This is where you get definitions of leadership, hospitality, and the other things the churches people are looking for, and it explains in detail what each topic means. So what we did at New Hope is we took the 7 pages of data, we looked for the key points, and we just copied and pasted into a Word document. So we have our key points, and then you can share that with your committees. So they don't have to go through 7 pages of data for the top 50% of the groups. So they're not looking at 80 pages, they might be looking at 12 pages. And it gives you some key points to look at too.
So based on the results, the demographics, the people that are out there are looking for this kind of
Yes.
leadership?
Yep.
Okay.
Right. Right. And if you don't have that type of leadership group, they can also always attend classes offered by the Methodist Church to get them to that place. In leadership, they're talking about not only the pastor, but also heads of committees, maybe youth ministers, youth pastors, teachers. That's the type of people they're looking for. And same thing with hospitality, what they're looking for when they come to church. Are they looking for coffee, tea, healthy snacks, or chips and pretzels? Goes into that kind of detail. You have a ton of information. We don't have a lot of time. So what you might want to do, another thing you could do is take the top level, like for example, leadership, CEO, discipler, and hospitality, multiple choices. See how many of the groups have the same needs. And then you can build a spreadsheet looking at which groups have those same needs, and maybe focus on those groups first, so you can have the biggest impact. So for example, people in the zip code 54115, the New Hope area, they're very sociable. They have a high devotion to family. Pastor should be a discipler, somebody who's into leadership development. They like multiple options for hospitality, high quality snacks. They like inspirational worship that gives them hope, and much more. But when you start listing the options in a spreadsheet, it becomes pretty obvious. In yellow, that's the first most frequent. So we notice in hospitality, we want to focus on multiple choices first. And we know if we focus on multiple choices, we can hit babies in bliss, confident boomers and boomerangs, autumn years. We can hit 5 different groups. We can satisfy 5 different groups if we go with multiple choice options for snacks.
Is that spreadsheet already generically there? We just have to change whatever our results are? Plug it in, or do we have to create our own?
I could give you the template, so you don't have to start from scratch. But I'm a Excel geek, so it just kind of happened.
Well, I mean, they're well, yeah, I don't mind if I like Excel too, but I'm just wondering if, you got that, you just change the wordage, or
Sure.
you just keep plunking in, erase it, and just fill in the
I can
columns
send you
according
copies.
to that. Okay.
Okay. And the last step is a reality test. Discuss findings with your area social service agencies, chamber of commerce, political agencies, and big box stores. We kind of did it in reverse order here at New Hope. Before I knew MissionInsite was available, we attended farmers markets, and we were asking people to help us fill out a questionnaire. And the ones who actually answered the questionnaire, we were able to gather data. And we found out that it matched up almost exactly with what came from MissionInsite. So we actually did our reality test first, then did MissionInsite. Another good reason to do MissionInsite because there's only so many farmers markets and malls that you can attend and ask people to fill out a questionnaire for you. Well, it's fun and a good way to spend an afternoon. There's only so much data you can collect. Multiple church option. We kind of hit on this already. So at the conference area or the circuit area, we can plot our multiple churches. Each church will have a different color code. And then we can see where we have a collaborative area, where we can offer shared studies and shared classes. So each church isn't doing the same thing and wasting their energy. And we also see where our gaps are, our new opportunity areas, where people aren't being serviced. And not only will we know where the gaps are, we'll know what those people are looking for. So we'll know how to communicate with them. We'll know what kind of things to offer them. So we have a very powerful tool here. So life practice. Pastor Henry, do you have any qualms about me throwing your church's people up there?
Not at all. They can all learn. I'd be the first one willing to learn about it.
I think he's talking about me.
Yeah. There's Pastor Henry Yope and Pastor Rebecca Henry.
No.
I should have been clear. But of course, since,
took it out.
if I can't get Seymour's dad out there, I have Pastor Henry Yope's dad also.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. It worked out pretty well. And since we're being filmed, a little bit of comedy. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. All right, let's get there. As soon as I find all right. Here we go. Yeah, you'll see my daughter's picture up there quite a lot as we go between software. So, all right, let's see here. Cicero Black Creek. Can you guys see this?
Is it under the Cicero, Pastor, or is it under Seymour?
Well, I have
under
both
Black-
churches loaded up.
You have both loaded
Yep.
up?
Okay, so it's plotting, and since we want to see more than all of Wisconsin, we want more detail, all you have to do is get to your general area, do a right click, rectangle zoom, and then you just lay out where you want to zoom into. And MissionInsite will bring you closer. And we can go closer yet. Rectangle zoom. Let's capture as many people as we can. Brings us closer. So that's Cicero. Let's do multiple choice, multiple churches.
Oneida's not tagged down there.
Pardon?
I don't see a red flag by Oneida, their church.
Yeah, here's the Oneida UMC church right here. Okay, so let's do multiple churches. So we're going to click off Cicero, and we're going to bring up Seymour. I really wanted this at the church level, but as I said, MissionInsite, since they work with many other denominations, they don't have this functionality driven down to the church level. So to plot multiple churches, you guys will just have to give me a call. Okay. I can't move this over, but pretty much Cicero will be in red and Seymour will be in blue. And we're going to do some That's plotting. So we plotted both churches.
So these are members?
Well, these are members, visitors,
Okay.
They're on our
anybody
mail
that's on the
list.
rolls.
Okay. On our mail
Those
list.
are actually
Okay.
churches that you're
No, these are the
No, these are
Or those
people.
house-
These
those
are
are
neighbors.
people?
These are congregants.
Okay.
Red congregants belong to Cicero. Blue congregants belong to Seymour. And what I'll do is, since you folks sent me a Word document, I'll send you the Excel spreadsheet, so then you can go in there and modify. If people are no longer members or visitors, you can delete them from the spreadsheet. And there's different codes you would use for active members, visitors, or non-members who come to church. And then you can do your uploads separately and get your reports. Okay. So that's plotting. Now we'll do shapes. Do you want to do a travel polygon, or do you want to do a free-form polygon?
travel.
Travel? Okay. And for your area, what makes sense? How many minutes would people drive to get to church, work, or entertainment? Or should we do drive time? We have a choice of miles or minutes.
I would say probably minutes.
Yeah, just do the
Okay.
minutes.
And how many minutes?
I would guess 20 to 30
Yeah.
to get to either of the cities.
Okay, we'll do 30 minutes. And what we'll do is we'll plot from one church address, and then we'll save that shape. Then we'll plot from the next church's address. And then we can do multiple shapes. Okay? So we'll do 30 minutes. And which address do we want to put in first?
721 Pleasant Way.
Okay. And as you start typing, it gives you some addresses. Okay, so we'll pick 721 Pleasant Way in Seymour. Our internet is very fast here, thank goodness. We've been at some churches where it just kind of cranks and cranks and cranks. All right, so that's 30-minute drive time. So we're going to save this shape. And we're going to call it Seymour. That was the Seymour Church, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so Seymour members and 30 minutes. That's this shape. All right, then we're going to do another shape. And the next address.
It's going to pop up if I start it.
Yeah, it will.
N7.
Let's hope.
It's Brucewitz Road. If there's a
Just N7?
I think another 7.
And some,
Or is it 8?
no,
Have
7.
N77?
No Brucewitz yet, huh?
No.
There was a county road.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Go back.
that's it's Moss Road.
Moss Road, no, that's not, no.
Nope.
Well, let's write the address.
Okay, so N77. Anything else behind the N77?
Do you have to have that or just we'll do this road? 'Cause I
I
would.
know, I just had a bulletin in here and I
Can you
took it
go
out.
by the road? Does it pull up to you?
Well, we can give it a try.
Sorry, we just
Yeah,
don't
take the
good.
sevens. Yeah, take the sevens out of there. Brucewitz, because that's a.
Do you want to spell it?
Yep.
BRUSEWITZ.
S.
BRU.
No,
Yes.
that's
BRUSEWITZ.
BRU.
SE.
BRU.
SE.
SE.
SE. Okay. There we go.
There it is.
Brucewitz.
All right.
We don't get mail or anything there.
But I live on it, I know how to spell it.
We could have looked your address up. Would have been close.
That's
And
right. We could have just
I drove past the church, and when we went past, it
It's
said
only like a half mile away.
Church View Road or something. It's like, well, the church must be here somewhere. Then I looked, oh, there it is. They weren't lying. All right, so we're going to save this shape. And we'll call it Cicero. Members. It's actually 30 minutes. Okay, and 30 minutes. All right, so we save that shape also. All right, so we have two saved shapes. And since we want to get a report for both churches, we'll go under saved shapes. We're going to display multiple. And then we go, it'll be near the bottom. Seymour members in 30 minute. Cicero members in 30 minute, and we're going to display. So we have, what we're going to do now is, MissionInsite has now captured all the data for both congregations and both mission fields.
I just have a question as I look at that. 20 to 30 minutes would definitely be what our members are doing to get somewhere, but that is taking us into Appleton or Green Bay.
Yep.
Is that a realistic, I mean, would people from Green Bay really come out to us, or would, because of, you know, the unique nature of us being close to the city and yet rural, would we need to really look at that differently?
Would I be correct to say that they would if you had what they were looking for in a church?
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Because we do have people that leave us and go to Green Bay.
Yeah, and if we look at our members, we have the plots. We do have plots that far out there. So
they moved away.
either they moved
But they
away,
come back,
maybe
but
they
they still
visited,
come,
maybe they come back for certain occasions. And as Pastor Henry said, if you have what they're looking for, they're going to come.
I had a living example of that in Denmark. At Easter time, I had a lady that, oh, hi, thank you for visiting, so on and so forth. And I live right in Denmark, and I'm United Methodist. Oh, that's really cool. I'd like it, you know, feel welcome here, and this could be your church home. And no, we're going on the west side of Green Bay to a Methodist church. I didn't ask why. Maybe that's where she grew up. Maybe it's something that's offered that they like, you know, and they live right in Denmark, and she'll pass my church to go to another.
Yeah. And in Boscobel, they drive 70 miles to come because the message is there. What they need is being offered at that church. So people will drive past their neighborhood church to get where they want to go. So we have that laid out. One of the fastest ways to get great data is under predefined reports, comparative insight. This will tell us not only what our church members are looking for, but what people in the mission field are looking for. Okay. There we go. It's quick. And it tells us in the 3 different sections, who are we, who is the church, and who is our neighbor. Congregant and community mosaic profiles, the demographic information for those people, and financial potential estimate. It's only an estimate. Some people look at those numbers and go, well, heck, we'd meet our budget for the next 10 years. we all know it's not that easy. Estimates only. It gives us our map, so we know what area and what people we're looking at. Oops. And then it gives us the nitty-gritty information. It gives us people by age, the mission field, and our congregation, and how we match up. If we're in the same general area, and it looks like we're pretty close. 19 to 24, the area is 3.2, and our congregation is 2.5. Luckily, this is PDF. You can make it bigger. There we go.
Thank you.
That's better. Thanks.
I love software that thinks. And PDFs are great. They know that people might be sitting out way back there. Okay. Except it's not going to let me go page down now. So it gives us age group, gives us estimated household income. where people work, occupations, retired, professional, technical, sales, service, farm-related, blue collar, or other. And this is the comparative insight. This is where we get all our great information. Just about every town in Wisconsin, you're going to see stock cars and state parks.
Look at ours is really high.
Look at that.
Yeah. What? You know, Black Creek, kind of out in the country, or it could be Seymour has the campers. You don't know, but we do know in our neighborhoods in northern Wisconsin, people love to go camping. They like the outdoors. The only time I didn't see stock cars in state parks, I did a study for a church in Oshkosh, and I was shocked. No campers there. I need to look a little bit closer, see what happened. But so that's the demographic information. Now, if we took a look at, do I have it? Yep. Okay. So this is Thomas Bandy's guide. This is where we're going to get all our detailed information about those groups. And like I said, I suggested don't print this out because it's easier to navigate when it's on the computer. So we're going to look at stock cars and state parks, and that's an I. All you do is you come to the section header, click on it, it takes you right there. So you can easily navigate. And you know, everybody laughs at stock cars and state parks. Well, here's what they are. A religious perspective. Religious practices cherish our past and can empower our future. So these are people that go to church. Key behaviors, multicultural, networks with family and friends, strong work ethic. And in Green Bay, in the Pere area, you find a lot of families. People have been here for a long time. So we know that family is important to them. Inclinations and attitudes, sociable. Well, once again, the De Pere area, people were sociable. And they value affluence more than simplicity. It's a growing area, younger people, they're hard workers. And moods and values, high drive for affluence and high commitment to career. That describes De Pere. And a summary, and then we get into the different ministry choices. And the definitions will appear in your second handout.
Now, is this for the Seymour church that you just did,
Yep.
or is this for De Pere?
Well, this is for the top group. This is stock cars and state parks.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a...
Oh, I see. I see.
This is overall.
Right. This is a lifestyle group that is in almost every area we have in Wisconsin.
Right.
Those are the characteristics of that particular group.
Right. Correct. Yep. Yep. So what you would do is once you find out your different demographic groups, that's when you'll drive down and look at the different leadership characteristics, hospitality characteristics, and determine what to focus on. And it gives you, like I said, a lot of detail into what these people are looking for, how to reach them.
So do we want to focus on who's there or who's not there?
I personally want to focus on who's not there. We want to reach people. But when we do a comparative insight study, we can draw parallels. We know we have a lot of members in the Stock Cars and State Parks group. There's a whole bunch of people we're not reaching, but we know what this demographic group is looking for, so we can relate to them. We have an idea of what we need to do to reach them.
That's a strategic question as well as demographic one, and I want to make a couple comments about
Sure.
that from my background in church growth literature over 30-some years. If Bandy, I think Bandy would agree with others and say, you, in spite of your good comments, Jim, you want to pay attention to the people who are already with you, because the easiest people for you to reach are going to be people who are like those already in your church. And the more unlike some prospective or target population is from your existing congregation, the more difficult will be reaching those people. Whether they're for instance, if you're looking for people who value careers, it'll be easier for you to reach people the same age and ethnic group who value careers than people a generation younger who also value careers. But that's kind of one step away, you know, and not too difficult. But if you're looking for people who value careers, who are also younger, and many of whom speak Spanish or Korean or some other language, that's going to be a very difficult shift for you to make. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You can just kind of picture the differences on a grid, and or like hopscotch, and the farther you hop away from your home square, the harder it will be for you to reach out and pull those people in. And likewise, the harder it'll be for you to imagine a new ministry for those people and develop that ministry. It's possible with the right leadership and the right homework, you know. You might get a person who speaks that other language, who's in that other generation and so forth, and take the time to build a core group using one system or another to build a core group of people, but it's tough.
Sure.
So those are big strategic decisions and dependent on a lot of other things to support what you imagine you want to do.
Just as supporting documentation, if I might make a comment, Circuit 14 has Community Faith in Manitowoc as part of the Lakeshore Church. They're a thriving and growing congregation. They've been there for about 2 years. Until recently, and I'll say maybe the first year, we kind of left the Hispanic people to their own. And now we are integrating, and it's working out fine, but it didn't happen overnight.
Sure.
So, and I mean that we are embracing their customs. They went to each church in Circuit 14 and put on a Hispanic dinner. And at the same point, we're having our potlucks and talking with Dario Hernandez and Pastor Isabel, oh, we don't really do that. I said, well, how about try it? We're trying your things, and you try ours. And so we're integrating now, and it's working out very well.
Sure.
We're taking a circuit trip just from Circuit 14 to Honduras. There are 12 people, not all from Circuit, but from the district that are going down to Honduras and going to be doing repairs on a church down there.
Very cool.
Where in Honduras, sorry?
I don't know the town, but it is the
ask you
hometown
later.
of the Hernandezes.
I'll ask you later.
Okay.
Okay.
And you can see in the Comparative Insight report, as Gordon said, our highest group is Stock Carson State Parks. We've only captured 40 people from a population of 7,200 in our mission field. So there's many people that we know how to speak to that are out there that we can reach. Same thing with Aging in Place, or let's go to Unspoiled Splendor. The second highest group in Seymour and Cicero, representing 10%. There's an additional 3,700 people that we can reach in that mission field. Now the mission field is big, so you might want to narrow it down, because we're pulling from Appleton, Green Bay, maybe shrink it a little bit. But you saw how easy it is to do that and how fast you can shrink your mission field and get good data.
Now, this doesn't tell us in this, for instance, in the Stock Carson State Parks in the study area, this doesn't tell us whether those folks are churched or unchurched.
There is an additional, there's additional information farther in the report. It gives us their inclination.
Oh, okay.
I might have to shrink it a little bit, because we're at financial potential right now. Okay. I gotta go small yet, but it will give us their inclination. And what we could do is we could shrink. We could focus down to the block area or maybe a couple neighborhoods to do targeting to find out if those people are going to church or not. Okay.
And how do we get to that? I mean, what's the process here with the software that people here would follow.
All right, so we're going to the rectangle zoom. We're going to come in a little bit closer. Opportunity scan, viewpoint, religious practices. Okay. Oh, you know what? I didn't draw a shape. Let me kill this. I apologize. I'm used to working with a mouse, and this trackpad is giving me trouble. There we go. Oh, so maybe it did give us that. It might have remembered the shape. I have to redraw the shape. Because what it's doing is giving me every zip code in Wisconsin, so that will not be helpful.
The world is my parish.
All right, so let's zoom in. Okay. We're just going to draw a shape. We're going to go to Polygon. Get our report. So we'll have the population, and we'll also have religious practices. So in our area, we have 509 people that are going to attend church. Spiritual person, so these are people that are spiritual, they're not yet attending church. 704 people in that little plot. Probably the people that are most serious, faith is really important to me, 192 people in that area. And we can even take it down farther, we can get closer. We get down to the block area or the neighborhood area to find out how many people.
Can you do it the other? That tells you who's religious, I guess. Can you do the opposite? Who just says they don't attend the church? I'm just curious.
I'm going to have to find that out and get back to you. Okay. I know there's one of the demographic groups does give that to you. I don't think we can get a quick report though, so I'll have to get back to you,
That's
Dave.
fine.
Is there anything else you would want to see about Mission Insight? Mission Insight also has webinars you can attend. There are free webinars. There's I think there's a couple coming up in 2014. Best thing to do is to go to the website. You've got support videos, documents. Let's see. Oh, one thing.
Is that this
The-
last?
Yes. One other thing, the Thomas Bandy Guide. This is the guide you want to download to your computers. So once again, it's under Help. And Mission Impact Mosaic Application Guide by Bandy. You want to download that and keep it on your computer. And support videos. This will help you get through getting started, basic navigation, theme maps, polygons. We'll walk you through step by step and how to get through MissionInsite.
Jim, so then the next step is we have the demographic information plotted, our church versus the community at large, and then we sit down as committees and then we just plan, this is what these people are looking for, then we try to plan our ministries accordingly.
Right.
That's how
Yep.
we do it?
Yep. And the easiest thing to do is, what are you offering? What are these people looking for? How can we reach them? And once again, if you build a spreadsheet, I'll send you the template. Oops. If you build a spreadsheet that looks at the different groups, so you can maximize your time. Which groups are asking for the same type of services or same type of groups, study groups? So you don't waste time on focusing on the smallest group.
You can do other things, Henry, strategically, besides just looking at the demographic material. Our DST is going to be taking windshield tours, we call them, drive around the neighborhood, and that gives you some information about what kind of houses people live in, looking at the yard, if there's children's toys or whatever, you get evidence of who's living in the neighborhood. If you go into commercial areas and notice Hispanic, Latino restaurants, Asian restaurants, you get more information about who's living there and the economics of it. You can also, besides this ethnographic information I'm talking about now and the driving around, you can talk to people in the community. The handout references big box people and community people, but school people, school district people, people in county government or city government are great resources about trends. The police department knows a lot about what's going on in the community. And you can talk to these people, ask them about what are the needs, what are unmet needs, how could faith community help with any of these needs. There's all kinds of things like that. You can also organize focus groups. You want, if you're thinking about a ministry idea, you can do your best without cost to assemble a representative sampling of people from that population. That's what a for pay focus group agency would do for you, but you can do your best to talk to some people outside of your church who represent an age group or a target area that you're trying to reach, and just ask them questions about, ministry ideas. Here's an idea we have. What do you think about this idea? If the idea looked more like this, what would be your response to it? Do you want children in worship with you, or do you want the children separated? Questions like that. So you can use your imagination and try to gather as much information as you can, a lot of it at no cost, and that will really supplement the demographics that we're talking about here. Really, I think, Jim, aren't we thinking that this information will help us to raise good questions?
Yep.
Rather than saying, well, here's the answers. But it'll
Right.
help us to raise good questions about possible people, to reach, and how, and then the tough business that I've been trying to speak about. You know, who really are they, and how would we reach them? What are they interested in?
Right. It doesn't tell you exactly what you have to do, but it gives you a clue as to what these people might be looking for.
And I see this as someone who, I do the small group coordination and stuff at First Church. I look at this, and the questions I wrote down is, how can I use the data of the people in my church right now to better reach them, better empower them, so that they can then go out and outreach. So this information I see happening is, if I can do the types of groups and stuff in my church in a way that is growing them as disciples, and I know all this stuff about what they need, you know, I have the personal relationships, but there's only so much, and then I feel like this provides a really good platform for empowering them to then think about the outreach. That's the way I think I personally will use this information in creating small groups and doing the children's ministry and things like that. Because if I can reach them and empower them and get them on board through this information, perhaps I can find the way to catch them onto that gospel message, to go out and fulfill this. So
because if they're excited, they're going to share it.
Yeah, and that's the primary place I see starting, at least with the people I work with firsthand. So.
And you can relate to them.
Yeah.
One of the things that I experienced in a prior appointment, that we did a lot of these kinds of things, looking at the demographics, the windshield tour, and asking people in the community what they knew about our congregations. And that was shocking to us, incredibly shocking. We took all that and assimilated a ministry plan, and that's when we finally did the focus group, and that was shocking again, because what we had come up with was a dead duck. And we had to go back, and it was really a matter of breaking down the walls that we didn't recognize had built up around our congregations and the culture in our congregations, to be able to recognize the people in the community clearly enough that we could then develop a new ministry proposal that we could really begin to reach out and genuinely relate to these people.
So in other words, what you were talking about around the table wasn't necessarily what was happening outside of your walls.
Yeah, we were, specifically our first ministry idea, the focus group responded, who's the cult behind this? There was complete mistrust. And that became a focus for the second ministry project idea of John 4 of Living Waters, that we had to deal with the distrust of the de-churched and unchurched and address that directly, or we were not going to be in significant ministry with the biggest part of our community.
It depends on the focus.
And
you don't want to be inwardly focused, you want to be outwardly focused.
Yeah, it was very much a transformation, adaptive learning process for the people, the congregations involved. It wasn't, okay, what do we need to do? It was, how do we need to change ourselves and grow so that we have integrity reaching out to the larger community?
That's a tough question to ask when you go out into the community and you ask about your church and what they think about you. And hopefully they think something of you and not, oh, who are you? Where are you at?
Mm-hmm.
That's true. So at least you had something. They knew where you're at. Any other questions? Any other things you want to look at in Mission Insight? Or tap Gordon's knowledge? Anybody have any data that you want to throw up there? We're early.
Nobody else wants to look. I'll see more of what you have.
I'd like to know more, like the stock. We saw what the stock car that group was. I'd like to see like our second or third, what that group is.
Okay.
I mean, I'm willing to share, but if nobody else is wanting, then I'll use the time. I've got a group here.
I just
can't blame it.
the computer. Is that why we have a new computer? Because this is going to take quite a.
This could do this because I've done the.
I know. So, I mean, if I put this on my home computer, it would never load all the same things up. There's no way.
No, that will be, and
All
he's,
the surveys and
we're a step ahead of the fact that Jim has loaded up all of
You
our.
know, in some ways, if it gets that first step and you want a church process, I can't tell you how many different things we just see where all the churches were and who was where and.
And this gives you an idea, you know, sure, we only know where the United Methodist churches are at, but still, that's step one.
But then you add the Google and
Right.
obviously you keep the focus on the bigger churches, but it's a tool, right?
I mean, it just now with the technology, you got to have the right.
He didn't stop, he kept going.
I mean, this is amazing.
You know, when I first saw this tool, I couldn't believe that more people would use it.
Well, first I was a little skeptical, like, okay, like, mission relations and that, but I think you use it as that kind of for relationship.
And some, a general comment, some people were hesitant to use MissionInsite because they looked at it as marketing. But I think the way to look at it is, how can we reach these people? Once again, as people drive by or you talk to people, you wonder, how are we going to reach them? This gives you the first step in how. And we can at least know the first words and how to reach these people. And Laura was talking about how she had used different survey tools.
This was really powerful. I've done a church plant out in Indiana, and to design something to figure out the demographics and everything else was a huge, like 6 months to a year process of going out and surveying and getting to know, just to figure out where to plant the church and who to reach. So seeing this took like 6 months off that process, while there's still things to do in communities to get to know, and to have that tool as someone who might be planting your church or is trying to grow a church is incredible. So.
Yeah. There's a couple areas that don't have churches. Howard and Pulaski we looked at, and we saw the growth that's available in those areas.
Angelica's up there though with Pulaski.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
it's,
Maybe there's a little bit of a combination in this whole picture too that needs to be considered. Like he talked about how had to change. Maybe it's learning what people are looking for, but you also then have to look at what you have to do to change to meet.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, in order to draw them in, to interest them. I think you have to change maybe to create interest to bring those in. Or to mesh the interests.
Yeah.
In that setting, the congregation, it was a multiple United Methodist project. The historic people who were making up those congregations had remained fairly steady. The communities around us had changed markedly. It had become a bedroom community for Northern Illinois. And we were doing very well with the groups that made us up. But we were not in touch with the new groups that had moved in, and we didn't know them. We didn't understand them. And we had to, okay, do we want to serve this group, this niche, or do we want to serve the community?
Yeah, again, stock cars, okay, are a major interest. Is there anybody in our church that's even interested in stock cars? Do we maybe have to somehow make some changes that'll create compatibility?
Yep.
You know,
Pastor Rebecca, what did you want to look at next?
Just when
any
you
of
came
them.
up with the percentage of the stock cars and
the
that
next
group, and
Okay.
see what just the definition of the next group, that our next highest group.
Okay.
That'd be
I think it's the blue collar.
blue collar. Yeah. What?
Now let me redo those reports.
Did you mention, Jim, that people can download the whole Bandy
Yes.
Mosaic?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and don't print it out. You'll waste a lot of paper.
I'm glad you said that because I probably would have.
Last night I was printing some more files because Jim profiled our church too, and I said, oh shoot, that one's 538 pages.
Because I don't like to sit at the computer, so I would have just, I'll just sit.
Can't read it off the computer.
Yeah, it's, just keep it on your hard drive. All right, so let's take a look at our second.
One of the questions I have while this is loading
Yep.
is how does Experian differentiate between the lifestyle groups of church members versus the community?
It really doesn't.
Oh, okay.
Because they have the global lifestyle group,
Mm-hmm.
and it fits everybody. It'll fit your church members. It'll fit the.
I'm talking about the comparative makeup of the percentages of church members in one group versus the community. How do they distinguish that?
It's based on address.
Okay.
So that's why the required data when you're doing plotting is address.
Okay, so
Because
they
it's
group what by census block?
census block, and that's really about it. And that's how they collect their data.
Okay.
All right, so here's your second group. So let's see here, who do we have? Okay. All right, so let's pull a different area. So rural escape, it's 6.5%. Aging in place. So if we take a look at aging in place on the Bandy guide, just click return to index, take you to the index. And aging in place is J34. Okay, so what are these folks looking for? Okay. As you would expect, they're a little bit older, so they're more religious. God's mission, our community, my church. Sink deep roots. They enjoy being home. They cherish their grandchildren. They keep it simple. They're local, traditional, and planned. And moods and values, high devotion to family, high importance to religious faith. And their leadership, they're looking for an enabler and a caregiver.
Those highlights are yours for this church, right?
Yeah, what I did is I bought some software for my iPad, so I can pull PDFs and highlight, cut and paste. I think it was $9 just, and that's where I get the highlight.
Yep.
So this group is looking for an established denomination. Pastor would be approachable and friendly, and they're looking for robes on a Sunday morning. That's what these people are looking for. And
Robes, did you say? R-O-B-E?
That's what I was just like,
Yeah.
robe or robe?
Church robes, not bathrobes.
Thank you for clarifying.
It's not casual.
that would be the Birkenstock group would probably be looking for bathrobes and maybe sandals. Might have advanced practical degrees. Pastor's an excellent preacher, worship leader, balanced and learned Bible study teacher, and capable administrator. So it gives you some pretty solid information. But if this is one of your smaller groups, you might be able to do away with robes. And people would just have to deal with that. But they're also asking the pastor to work collar during the week, so maybe that's how you, maybe that's a trade-off. Don't wear robes on Sunday, but during the week, wear a collar.
I'll wear the robe and not the collar.
What else are we looking for here? And these little
Said something about the pastors' faces that don't ask.
what's that?
Yeah, there. Right there.
Oh.
Daunting challenge of
Visiting constantly,
Yeah.
and yet always being in the office.
In and out.
It's kind of tough.
Yep, there's some, that's pretty accurate.
No, I mean, isn't that
Right.
crazy?
Yeah,
In and out.
that's what they want.
Yeah. And if you're not in both places at the same time, you're probably going to get in trouble. And then the worship, education. Worship is caregiving and educational. They prefer traditional worship, but are open to new hymns. And since this is one of our this is where we have an issue at New Hope. We have a lot of people who want traditional hymns, yet we have some people that want newer music. And our praise team wants all new music. So luckily we just brought on one of the invites we did. We're lucky that, not lucky, God gave us a piano player. So now we can have our traditional music. We can have 2 songs where Don will sit at the piano and play the traditional songs. And some of our ladies gave him the hymnal and said, "Here's what we want to hear." So they made their selection, and we're grateful for that.
That's another barrier that you run into. People in the church think they're, in quotes, they're in the club. They think they're doing a good job. They want growth, but they don't want anything to change. Well, you can't have it both ways.
Right.
So,
And
when you're talking about worship, I think you have to switch it up and move it to the next level. And that means blend it if you have to. If you're very traditional, don't take that all away. Our organist just died. And so we're wondering what are we going to do for music. And so that might open the door now for some contemporary. Realizing we have people that don't like that all the time, so we're willing to trade off, and we might do one Sunday contemporary, or a few numbers contemporary, and then the rest traditional.
And this will give you a way to communicate with your committees, with your praise team, and might make your job a little bit easier, because you can show them that, well, here's what we're dealing with, and help them kind of see the way.
That's like if you do that once a month, praise, a little more contemporary, all of a sudden you see that service being highly, people are coming to that and not to the more traditional ones, then you can start changing that focus a little bit quicker, or maybe meeting the needs,
Yeah.
And we've tended to go to a blended service. Couple current hymns, couple traditional hymns, and it works out. People are starting to see that it can work.
When I was on my track for ministry, I was a member for a short time at Marinette First, and there was a certain group of people that wanted contemporary service, and the core was very traditional. So the pastor went out on a limb and he said, "We're just going to try it." And so it started out, these people would, at the second service, they would kind of look in through the window and say, "What are these people doing in here?" And at the end, they became very interested, and that service was growing. They wanted to know, "What are you doing in here?" They wanted to be a part of it.
Pastor Rebecca, anything else?
I guess I'd be curious in the unspoiled. Well, I had blue collar, and maybe it's because of Seymour Cicero. I had blue collar is also another.
Okay. Let's take a look. And I'll get there, then I'll turn up the heat. It seems like it's cooling off here. Was it blue collar comfort?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll turn up the heat. We got cold fast.
Well, we did 6 months.
All right, so let's see here. So they're looking for an enabler, a CEO, and discipler. So they're pretty open to different types of leadership styles. Prefer a pastor who shares middle-of-the-road attitude toward public policies and preserves the harmony. Needs to be sensitive to different generations. You have different families there who may have grown up in the area and keep the kids there too. Pastor's friend, counselor, and facilitator.
Occasionally the pastor recycles an old sermon, that's okay.
Because they might have forgotten it.
Yeah.
The word is occasionally.
Or maybe they weren't listening the first time. I don't know. So the pastor is the key reason why people in this segment get involved with the church. Of course, pastor gets the blame if things go wrong. But at least they get the praise when things go right. That's always important. And worship, inspirational coaching or caregiving. Hymns tend to be traditional, but livelier and more update. Organ, piano.
So, the three groups we've looked at, they're not that different from one another. There's a few things here or there that vary in the sections that we've been looking at, but I think all three of them had enabler and caregiver. So that makes it easier and nicer
Right.
for us to.
Now, in churches like Green Bay First, where you have a downtown area, plus people coming in from the outside neighborhoods, it gets a little bit tougher. You're going to be dealing with a greater demographic spread. Small country churches, things are a little bit solid, more established.
So the wheels are turning in my mind, and maybe for others too. I'm just trying to, the gears are moving, and how can we incorporate the information into active ministry? So for example, finding out that people really like to camp. And after hearing this, yeah, that's true. My people aren't in church all summer because they're at the campground. So how can we translate that into active ministry? Does that mean perhaps that we could reach out in some ways to the campgrounds in the summer? Does it mean that we could do a service occasionally during the summer at the community park, and people might be more apt to come than they would be sitting in a building, especially if you don't have air conditioning, or something. How do we translate?
Or maybe
am I on the right track? Is that what we would do?
Or maybe
like
it's
that?
midweek because they're gone on the weekend.
Okay.
I mean, those are,
Yeah. I think midweek is a good option. Same thing you find out based on work schedules. If people are working on Sunday mornings, you might have to go to Saturday night or, once again, midweek. Gives you some really good tools. But another way to find out information, like Gordon said, is the windshield tours. And drive around, find out where people are on Sundays. There's a lot of work to be done.
What would you say is the next step for churches that come to the training, give you the data? Then what? Who do we involve? What do we do?
Well, get someone or a couple people to get into the Bandy document and accumulate the data and boil it down a little bit so you can present it to the committees. Because we have data here on leadership, worship styles, small groups, and also stewardship. Get those portions of the document to those committees so they can start working on it. That'd be the next thing. Windshield tours or validating the data. Because while this data is accurate, it could be 6 months old. It is based on the time you posted it. And in some areas, that's a huge difference. For churches that are near vacation areas, If it's during summer, you can have a different group than you will in the wintertime. The farming areas are going to be different. So validate the data, make sure you have current information, get it to the group so they can start making decisions, and also do the comparative insight report to find out who we have in our church and who's in the neighborhood, who's in our mission field, and how can we relate to those people, how can we learn to reach those people.
So are you saying that we should upload the data, look at the population every so often?
6 months.
Every 6 months, we should do that.
And let me find out from Mission Insight when they do the upload.
Okay.
Yeah, Dave, I think that this demographic information and any other that you get from governments or school or industry or, is just one part of a larger planning process, and of course needs to be incorporated into your normal planning process, whether you have a futuring or visioning task group, or whether it's the church council that does that work. So that they have full access to this kind of information and can incorporate it into their core values and their direction, and but it should be hooked into your church council at some point, because any changes here could require staffing, facilities, all the things that the church council receives reports on, like from staff parish and from the trustees. What space are we going to make available for some new group, who would lead it. So I think the church council needs to be involved. Just becomes part of the ministry planning process.
I have a church in my neighborhood that said to their administrative assistant, not United Methodist, different denomination, said to their administrative assistant, you have two choices. Your job description is changing because the world is changing. And so you're either going to get up with technology or we hire someone who is. And, get rid of the electric typewriter. You're going on computer full steam. You know what I mean? And it's not age discrimination, this is an older lady in this case, and I feel bad for her in one respect, and she's kind of thinking, well, maybe it's time too, to step back and let the younger person. And then the other challenge is, where do you find the younger person to step forward, But, we have to adapt and change with the times. And if these core groups, if some of these focus groups say, we really want technology, well, I guess that the email is going to be much more effective than the letter in the mailbox.
My experience would add a subtlety that, at least from my observation, may be helpful. That this will give you a lot of technical information, objective information. It took a while for the leaders and the people in the congregations to kind of integrate this data, this snapshot of their community and of themselves. And that was not a technical leadership issue, it was more an adaptive leadership issue. They had to adapt how they saw themselves in their community. That's not an easy process. We encountered a fair resistance to want to accept that demographic data, windshield tours, walking around questionnaires were valid. That they felt that they knew themselves and their community better than they really did. That there was a leadership issue not to correct them, but to help them see themselves differently, to adapt. Saying that, all of that information was not enough to develop a new plan that had any real chance of implementation. Again, we had to help the congregation adapt to a different sense of themselves, reaching out to help them recognize why they would want to reach out to people beyond themselves and destabilize and change how their normal fellowship patterns were already set, carved in stone like the Ten Commandments,
Yeah.
how and why that needed or they would want to change that. And so I came to recognize that it isn't just a technical leadership issue, it's an adaptive leadership issue to help the congregation grow so that they then can reach out to the larger community and grow numerically and spiritually. There's a lot more subtleties to it along the way.
I have a certain core group in my church. It's grandparents bringing the grandchildren to church in Sunday school.
Oh yeah,
Where are the parents? They're not there. How do you reach them?
we have that too in our Sunday schools.
Because the initial thought is, if you attract the kids, the parents will come.
It's not always happening.
Not always happening.
Get the calf, get the cow, get the cow, get the bull.
And the thing could be the parents might have to work.
Or they're divorced, or there's
yeah.
some situation with the single parent and the changing demographic, trying to get kids and families to Sunday school. It's a lot different with the groups you have to offer and how we really look at ourselves. I like that kind of. Is there anything else we can do for you guys before we put you back on the road?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Well, thank you for coming. Because as we saw, we have a lot of work to do in the area. There's a lot of people we can reach, and this is just the start.